Please welcome GabrielaHearst, designer GabrielaHearst, with Jessica Iredale, Senior Fashion Features Editor, WWD.
Hi, Gabby. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jessica. Thank you, WWD.
So when I was putting this together, I was thinking about how we met 3.5 years ago when you were launching GabrielaHearst, and I remember going to your house to preview the collection and kind of thinking I was going to see a standard new designer launch. And when I got there, you were very pregnant with your son, and you had a full ready-to-wear collection done in some of the nicest fabrics I've ever seen. I think you had shoes, you had some bags, and you had a logo and a brand book designed by Peter Miles. And I was like, okay, she's serious. And you know, you had a really clear vision and a story to tell from the beginning. So what did you want to do and why?
So I wanted to, exactly what you just said, present a collection. Because I also had 10 years of my previous experience, I really knew what I wanted to do. It's kind of, I finally found my voice, and what I wanted to do was very clear, but it took a while to get there. But the first image was actually my mother. So that's like the origin, the one in the horse, that was my mother in 1971. And those are the images of the first collection. I wanted to bring back what I learned in Uruguay, because I inherited my father's ranch. And so that point of conversion of having the elements that I grew up with, the 19 years living in New York, that combining those two together was, in essence, the beginning of the brand. And I had a very particular upbringing, so I knew how to put all those elements exactly. It was the vision finally was crystallizing, but you know, it took over a decade.
We'll talk a little bit more about being from Uruguay, and you grew up in a sheep ranch. And
that's my children, and when they were little, and that's myself in my dad's ranch. My family is all in ranching. My father, my stepfather, my mother, and all I knew growing up was, you know, being in nature, outnumbered by animals, in a large-scale place where you just don't see other houses or any other people, so that made me very curious. So life was very simple in that way, and I was actually telling my children that we had, you know, the phones that you would like. We
Really?
did. That's like, there's a joke that if the end of the world is coming, you move to Uruguay because it will come in 15 years. So just have it in mind. So just like it's like, you know, you would call to make a phone, you had to use the wood operating phone, and then the operator will connect you. And it was like that actually when I was a kid. And that's my dad. And so I learned about quality there, and quality that's not opulence, quality that's made from a utilitarian point of view. That everything they're probably wearing, the leather, everything's made by hand, the saddles are made by hands, but they need to last, because that's where quality is, and you can't do it fast. Mm-hmm. You can't do quality fast. It takes time, and so that's where also the timeless design aspect of what I do comes, because if you're going to invest your time in designing and creating a craft that it's going to have a certain value, it has to have a design that is not trend-based or trend-focused. They want to have it forever, and also that's from my upbringing too, because you know, my mother didn't have a lot of clothes, but what she had was very beautiful when she had to clean up, when she was not in a horse. And so there was no Bergdorf to go shop, there was no fancy store, so the nicest thing you could do was to buy fabrics and have them done with your seamstress, so you would design and make your clothing. And it's basically couture, the pieces, when you see them. If it's a beautiful seamstress that she worked, all our family worked with the same seamstress. So I grew up with very beautiful products that were made in this craft. But so it's that's where kind of all the conjuring of the vision comes, and I have a true passion of always looking for quality, and it can be the best Parmesan or the best espresso. It's about finding passion.
Mm-hmm. So the fabrics you use are really amazing. They're like the top.
I'm only interested in working with like best fabrics.
Mm-hmm. Well, so what does luxury mean to you in terms of doing this business? It is true luxury. You're one of the few designers in the U.S. doing that.
It takes knowing where things come from, and my family's a 5th-generation, I am actually a 6th-generation business, but I know what passion looks like and feels like, and it takes sometimes a generation or more to make a good product. And when you're working with mills that are family-owned, or that they take so much pride in the product, and it takes, sometimes more, as I said, more of a lifetime to create a product. So for me, that's what luxury is: knowing where everything is made, how is it made, and what you're giving to your customer.
And you actually use some of the wool from your ranch in the
Yes,
collection, right?
that was a year and a half of a process, and it was actually my husband's idea. That he's American from New York, and he was telling me, you should use the wool from your farm. I'm like, they're completely different. I'm selling a raw material. This is a fine. And I was like, no, Gabby, you need to explain, because you know where things come from, but a lot of people do not tie the knots like that. And I was like, okay, after a lot of insistence. And so we had a mill from Italy take the wool from the ranch and process the wool, and then the navy twill and gray flannel from our collections is from the wool from the farm.
And so sustainability also factors into your idea of luxury.
Yeah.
So how do you implement that, and what's your philosophy on sustainability now?
Well, I come from there, so I grew up in a sustainable environment. We had grass-fed, organic, because it was the way we always done it. So for me, luxury is sustainable. It shouldn't be like two competing concepts, because something that is crafted by hand, and the whole process, it needs to have the human aspect and not be based on overconsumption. So we do specific things in our company to create that. We base on like, not how many products we make, but how many products do we sell. Mm-hmm. And we also make sure that we'll take plastic out of the company by April 2019. So everything is going to be, the flexible packaging is going to be biodegradable in 24 weeks.
Talk about the packaging you use, because that's pretty interesting.
We found TIPA, which is created by two Israeli mothers. It had 7 years in R&D, and it's like an amazing solution. We are the first ones to develop a garment bag for packaging with them. So, but hopefully a lot of designers can use it too. So when everyone's clothes here has been wrapped in plastic, mm-hmm. and all the hangers that come in plastics, they end up in landfills. They don't get recycled, the hangers. So those were the two big problems that we saw in our back office. And so the TIPA packaging now will be biodegradable 24 weeks versus 500 years. And then we're going to ship in cardboard hangers instead of plastic hangers.
And then in terms of the materials that you use?
Oh, yes, I stay away from anything that is synthetic as much as possible. There's sometimes like 2% of Lycra. The main thing is we've done as a civilization for 6,000 years beautiful crafted products. And I feel that in the past 20, 15 years, things have speed up. But sometimes new is not better. Sometimes it takes a bit of combining both of the worlds and figuring out what is the technology. I'm still like, I want all my sketches by hand. Mm-hmm. The furniture for stores made all by hand. I love the human aspect of things. So humans are messy, but they're definitely interesting.
So as I said, you only launched 3.5 years ago, which is not that long ago, and you had a very good response kind of quickly. What did people react to, and what caught on with the collection?
I think that because I had all those years of training, I think that I had made some shortcuts, in the sense it looked like shortcuts, but it was actually making a lot of mistakes, learning. I knew it's the whole thing is encompassed. I knew that you only are judged at the end of the day by a sell-through number. Mm-hmm. So you make sure you ship on time, you make sure your quality is right, you make sure you don't disappoint the customer, and you stay clear to your vision, which is something that for me personally took me a lot of time to really be confident enough to be, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is what I see.
So something that was definitely successful for you has been the handbags, which I think it's fair to say that you have a couple it bags. The Nina and the Demi are the first ones, right?
Yes.
And Oprah carried the Nina or the Demi to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding. I think that's kind of the nexus of product placement. So
I'm like a huge Diana fan and a huge Oprah fan. So for me, it was like heart attack.
yeah. So, well, the designs are very interesting. So talk about that because they're all kind of structured and.
The whole process of the handbags is like kind of out of not your traditional recipe book of things, you know. Our head of sales told me, like, you know, you can't launch just a handbag, you have to launch a collection. I'm like, but my friend was calling me, you can't walk around with your shoes and you're ready to wear, but someone else's handbag. Mm-hmm. So I basically created a handbag that I wanted to wear. So like in that philosophy, we still keep creating our different handbags in the 9 to 10 month periods that it takes us to develop. And sometimes even that one, the Mitchell, is based on the Tiffin food system for India. So it separates, it compartmentalizes like our lives. So you can have your cell phone and your battery charger and your makeup and your credit cards. And so I like this idea of creating things that are more structural, but it's completely free. Mm-hmm. Like I don't design up a handbag collection. I come up with an idea and we go, and it's 50% of our revenue. So one part of it it's free.
Right. So in addition to being interesting designs, you also basically refuse to wholesale them, which has probably driven your retail partners crazy, but worked out pretty well for you. So what were you thinking with that?
I have two guidelines for GabrielaHearst, like to write like codes. It's like long-term view, number one, and sustainability. So the idea, they presented me the wholesale plan, and immediately I was, okay, we can sell a lot of bags, but at the end of the day, we'll be making the same amount of money to be selling double the amount. So it just didn't make sense from the natural resources point of view. And also in the fast pace that we're living of overexposure and things, it's like, I want to be doing this for a long time. I can pace myself to grow. And that's part of the philosophy of the company. It's like growth, control, strategically. I want to be doing this for a while, so.
And some of them have a wait list, right?
Yes.
How does it work? Because you order it on the website, or?
We put it at the beginning. It's the opposite of speed or early delivery. It's like how we did it backwards. It's kind of crazy. We had the picture till like less than a year ago. You had to print out and write it down, and then we automatized. We like upgraded a little, so now you can put yourself in the wait list and write your request on the bags. You can actually choose the bags from online, and then when we get them, we ship them. And at the beginning it was 100 people, and then 1,000 people, and you know. But so going back to analyzing data, we actually can analyze the data of like, okay, this bag has this much request, so we will make this amount of bags. So we don't carry excess stock. We common sense.
And they're in demand. So you have the bags, the shoes, you just launched jewelry, or that's coming for fall. And next week you'll have a store to sell them in. So tell us about the store. It's on Madison next to the Carlisle. It's a nice spot.
I'm very, very excited about that. We're very excited because it always was part of the dream, because it was very clear that the type of product that we want to create, we have to have our own retail environment. And the store, I wanted to create and I hope you all come see it. You don't have to buy, but come see it. And I wanted to create an environment that was sustainable. There is no synthetic fabrics, there's no chemical treatment, but it was luxurious. Mm-hmm. You go, and also inviting and not intimidating, because I saw that a lot of luxury stores, sometimes you feel a little bit intimidating and you have to be or a certain way or cool. And this is actually inviting, inspiring, and I think that I'm very proud of that. And 99% of all the materials are going to be recycled. The wood is reclaimed. There's no chrome in the paint. Every single furniture was done by hand, and if every single piece there, it's done by hand, and to every stitch. Italian craftsmanship at its best.
Why did you want to be a Madison?
First of all, I didn't think we could afford it, but then things started to look kind of better. So we're like, oh, we're going to have a store. And so for me, that block next to the Carlisle Hotel, it's very happening. And we also see that a lot of 50% of our revenue is international. So, you have 2 main hotels there. You have 3 excellent restaurants. You have Sant Ambrose, Capo Massa in front, then you have Flora, you have the Whitney Museum, where in America, there's analyzing data. A lot of, in main cities like San Francisco, New York, and Los Angeles, people are starting to go, especially in New York and San Francisco, people are starting to go more to cultural events, galleries, museums, than actually sports events. So being next to a museum is something that it attracts the clientele that we think is a customer for GabrielaHearst.
Is it actually in the Carlisle? Or?
Yeah, it's 2 doors to Madison and 1 to the Carlisle. So you can shop and drink a martini. I mean, makes sense to me.
Dangerous. So this has been a big year for you. You have the store. You also opened a Paris showroom, which is beautiful. And earlier this year, you had your first nomination for CFDA Women's Wear Designer of the Year, which is the big one. And that's a category that's always dominated by male designers. So you're a woman designing for women. I think your company is mostly women.
Yes.
What do you think? Does that make a difference? Is it?
I think first you have a little bit of an advantage if you understand water retention. So that's the thing, that if you're a woman and you get our bodies and how our bodies change and transform and what you want to feel, I think that intuitively, and for me, actually, what intuition is the fact that you can analyze information, just like an algorithm, but much slower, and you can analyze the information and express it. As a woman designer, I can feel what we want to wear and how we feel and our insecurities and our emotions, and it's how things feel to the touch. That's very important, I think, for the psychology. So everything that's close to your skin needs to feel soft and good for you.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of some of the women that you've dressed, like red carpet and editorial, you have a good list. Oprah, Nicole Kidman, Jill Biden, Cecile Richards, Chelsea Manning, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and they're not little starlets, and they're not always wearing little pretty dresses. A lot of them are wearing your suits. So is there a strategy or a message there, or who do you want to dress?
We wanted to have role models. I think I'm always attractive to people that use whatever, men and women, that use their attention and limelight to focus on other people. So people that are actually giving and doing, for others. I always find that very honorable and a quality that I like. And so I think we always choose to, especially after 2016, we're always trying to choose people that one can aspire or have good messaging. So you have to choose your team.
We're already getting the cue to wrap up. Should we open up for questions?
Gabriela, you've talked so interestingly about being able to do what you want to do and focus so much on sustainability and everything's in your control. Would you consider taking on an investor? And if you would you insist on a majority ownership? No.
I wouldn't insist on a majority ownership. I think that we like the pace we're going. If something like that happens, it's more would be for something that we would need or understand. But I think we're very comfortable how we are in that space.
Anyone else?
How are you doing digitally with your brand? Do you have a
Not so great, but We're trying. I mean, half of my life is analog and half of my life have been digital. We've made a lot of effort to put our social media. I remember traveling one time when Instagram just started and we're launching GH, and I'm like, how important is Instagram? And everybody was like, very, and it is actually. And so we've done a lot of effort to continue the authentic part of our brand. We really do look at every image that we put. I actually say okay if I'm not posting unless I'm on holiday and I don't want to see an app or a phone. But if not, I look at every image because I feel like that's the thing with the advantage of today is that you have so many access to everything, but there's a bombardment of images, and it's like Instagram is like the gluttony of images, and if you like images like me, it sucks you in and you're like there for hours like da. So I really want to make sure that what we're putting out is of quality, and then the website needs a little bit of a revamp.
But you have e-commerce.
Yeah, we do.
We have a question to your left.
Hi, back here. I love your products.
Thank you.
Congratulations. It's really wonderful. And it's really wonderful to see how you've brought your two worlds together. Yesterday we heard from Antoine Arnaud from Berluti and LVMH about how important it is that the customer connects with the specialness of the product. Are you finding, and are your customers getting inside of your products in the way that you want them to? Are they discovering the fabrics? Are they discovering the way, even the stirrup closures and the small little details, that pulls people into your product? I'm just curious of how that's evolving.
Thanks for noticing of the merging of the two worlds, because it is. And yes, I think that's the essence of what we're creating. This is a product-based company, and the quality, I don't feel that the true luxury customer can be fooled. That's my belief system, is that when I see a dress that it's $5,000, but I know that the fabric is 25 euros, I'm like, okay, there's a lot of marketing in between. But I do think that the true luxury customer, and they're getting educated, and there's going to be more and more demand of that quality and that standard. So I do believe that, first in principle, I can't put something out there with my name that it won't be to a standard. We really try hard to have that quality of product get better and better. So yes, I think that because of our business, how it's growing, I think that yes, there's a demand, and people are happily surprised when they're buying it online, and then they actually touch the product for the first time.
Another question, Gabby. You've talked a lot about luxury and feel and quality, and also timelessness. So what is your approach to design in terms of making product that's timeless and beautiful, but still inviting and with a difference?
Oh, thank you for the question. Because that's something I think a lot about, and usually people think of timeless design as something, because the word can be associated with boring, but you look at a piece of jewelry from an earring from the 3rd century before Christ of Greek, and you're like, this is incredible. So it's very difficult to achieve timeless design. It's something that we strive all the time to get it right. But I do believe that first, we don't follow trends, and second is, I want that piece that our customer is buying to have it for the rest of their life. I want it to be the hand-me-down piece to their daughters. It's not like I don't want it to be in the real deal. Like, I wanted them to have it and not give it. I'll sell it.
Any other questions?
Sorry, one more. Talking about creating timeless clothes that last, how do you reconcile that with the urgency of the fashion calendar and the seasons and collections?
That's why I kept the handbags free of that. I had already my training in the ready-to-wear in shoes, so I effectively we can do it. But there's a lot of times where we have an idea and we developed and it's not ready there, it's not yet, and it took 6 months, and like could be a dress, a garment, a pair of shoes, and I don't throw it out. I continue working, and you'll see it the next season. We continue the work if we believe in something, because it takes time to get the things right. It really does.
Thank you so much. That's all the time we have.